Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Cars and Life. Well, I'm pretty excited today. As you can see, I got the Hellion single turbo kit installed in my car, and I'm very happy with it. Extremely happy with it. So I think this video, I just want to go over sort of the issues that I ran into during installation, and also to give you a bit of a review for the kit, and also show you what horsepower and torque it put down. I dynoed it this week and very excited. It did very well, especially for a 3-valve. So just a bit of a review. So my engine is a 5.2 liter 3-valve. It's a 2008 Mustang, and I have states reported heads on it. It's a built engine, billet I-beam rods, those type of things. Here's the kit. This is the turbo right here. It's a Precision 7675 ceramic ball bearing turbo. And this is the Hellion kit, the Hellion 3-valve single turbo kit. So we'll kind of go over what we're seeing here. This is the bypass valve. This vents the charge pipe. Once you let off the gas, the vacuum pulls the valve open and it puts the gas back inside the air intake. Here I have a vacuum distribution block just to kind of make things a little bit more prettier in the engine bay. The vacuum comes from this fuel vacuum line. I just used a T right here, and that connects right here, and I'm connecting the bypass valve to the vacuum block. And also right here, you can't see it, but this is the boost gauge. Here's the boost gauge line here, and this goes back here, and this is where the boost gauge sender mounts. Here's basically the car. I added Hellion Turbo Graphic just to see what it looks like. Well, I think it looks pretty good. The review of it. Here's the car here. I have the wide body kit, which you guys probably know. If you don't, if you're new to the channel, these are true fiber fender flares, which I mounted the car using these button-head cap screws. I'm just going to kind of go over the issues that I ran into. So if you're getting the bigger turbo, the 76, there's a couple of turbos offered, the Precision and then also the Turbonetics. I don't know much about the Turbonetics, so I'm just going to talk about the Precision. It's very big. It takes up a lot of space. My radiator is not stock, so it's actually twice as thick as the stock radiator. So that actually pushes out the fan shroud by at least an inch further towards the turbo. So what I had to do was essentially cut. You see this cut here? I had to cut this out just to get the fan shroud so I could install it. Otherwise it wouldn't fit in here because it would just hit the turbo. The other issue is this idle pulley. Hellion will send you a smaller diameter pulley, and the clearance between this idle pulley and the compressor housing is actually very small. I think I measured it to be like 30 thousandths inch, so there's not a lot of room to play. But once you get the piping in and the turbo mounted, everything is very stiff. So I haven't ran into any deflection issues or thermal expansion issues. So pretty much this doesn't hit here. This edge here was kind of ground off because I'm not sure what happened here, but it's not hitting the turbo at all. What else? I think that's all for this picture. So it's hard getting in this turbo. It's kind of a pain. I had the air intake manifold already off because I was going to install the AC lines back in my car. But if your air intake manifold is on, I'm sure it's probably going to be a pain. You do have to take off some bolts and lift the air intake manifold up so you can get these bolts on here. I don't know. You might want to think about taking off the air intake manifold just to make your life easier. It might help. So here's a close-up view of this idle pulley. What I ended up doing is I think this is the stock serpentine belt, but what did I end up doing? So the stock belt is actually a 6-rib. What I did was I ended up going with a 5-rib belt just to reduce the width here a little bit. Otherwise, it was hitting the compressor housing. So the orientation of this, of the compressor housing here, is determined by the holes in this bracket. So in hindsight, what I could have done was actually drilled another hole and rotated, and so this hole would have been lower here, and that would have clocked that would have rotated this compressor housing, or this air outlet, further this way, and that would have provided more clearance. I could have done that. I didn't. I just went with the holes that were already in the bracket. So these holes don't line up perfectly. It was kind of hard getting this turbo mounted. So you might want to think about re-drilling this hole if you're going to be installing the Precision 76. So here's a picture of the fan shroud. I had to cut. So here's actually the top of the fan shroud. You see this cut here, but I also had to cut these support members here all the way around here. So all this is cut, this is cut, this is cut. So all these are cut. That didn't affect at all how the fan operates. It rotates just fine. So there's no issues with that. I think every issue that I ran into was only because of the fact that I did not have stock components. These are aftermarket components, and the Hellion kit is designed around stock Mustangs. The other modification that I had to do was, because I have this BMR radiator support, it's aftermarket, I did have to cut this mounting area here. You can see this cut here just to get the intercooler pipe in. It was pretty easy. It's pretty tight getting the oil filter out because you have this piping here. So what I ended up doing, just to make things easier, was to buy a oil filter relocation kit. The one here shown is the MMR one. It's actually, I was pretty impressed with the quality. It has Red Horse performance fittings, and actually was pretty. I like this kit quite a bit. The other issue, I'm not sure why this didn't work, but Hellion wants you to put the steering fluid cooling pipe on this side, on the front of the intercooler. It wasn't really fitting well, so I just decided to tuck it in between the radiator and the AC condenser, and I just used some zip ties, and it actually fits up there pretty nicely now. The other thing is the pipe that goes from the intercooler and into the air intake, into the throttle body. It's actually pretty small, so this is getting close to the ABS stuff in your car, and this is the headlight, the driver's side headlight. So what I decided to do, I noticed that this the silicone coupler was actually kind of getting pinched just a little bit and narrowing the cross-sectional area a little bit. So what I decided to do is just kind of hammer this area here, just so I can expand this hole here a little bit. You probably don't need to do that, but I just did that just to ensure that there's no restriction in airflow. So I wanted to go over kind of what the Hellion piping looks like. What happens is you have a Y pipe. There's two ends that attach to your stock exhaust manifold, or your shorty headers. You know, I have shorty headers. So these two pipes, they turn into a single 3-inch pipe. So we have two 2.5-inch pipes that turn into one single 3-inch pipe. And this leads around. We have a pipe that goes underneath your A-arms, and there's a V-band flange here. Then this pipe connects into the exhaust hot side of the turbo. That's what actually provides the airflow to spin up the turbo. Over here's the down pipe. This connects to your on the V-band side of your turbo, on the exhaust side, and this pipe goes here, and then you have another pipe that goes underneath the passenger side A-arm and through the K-member here and back into this Y pipe here. So here's this 3-inch Y pipe, and then it branches off into two 2.5-inch outlets where you plug in your stock exhaust. The issue, I think, is if your car is lowered, you're going to run into an issue with this passenger side pipe here that goes underneath the A-pillar. Not the A-pillar, but the A-arm. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute, but if your car is not lowered, I heard that there pretty much isn't any issue. I think this pipe's high enough. You kind of notice that this pipe is higher than this pipe. What I will have to be doing is I'm going to take it into a guy who's going to be cutting this pipe and then shortening it and then moving it up so there's more clearance in between this pipe and the ground. So as you can see, this is the passenger side pipe that I showed you before. You notice the distance between the pipe and the ground is only about an inch, and that's just not enough. You need more than that. And principally that's caused by the fact that I do have a lowered car. However, I think that this pipe could have been redesigned and just simply moved up a little bit. I mean, I think that would have been an easy thing to do in the design process. But I'm just going to have to get this modified. I think since I'm getting this pipe modified, I'm going to go ahead and put in an exhaust cutout somewhere around in here, because what I've heard is anything over like 700 or 800 wheel horsepower, this pipe here is starting to restrict the exhaust flow and reduce the horsepower. So I'm going to put an exhaust cutout here, so all the flow, most of the exhaust will go out. This exhaust cutout here won't flow through the exhaust at all. So this is just what it looks like. So another modification I had to do. So I have stock. I don't have stock. This is the radiator coolant, a reservoir, and also here's the power steering reservoir. These are not stock. These are the Moroso version. So it's pretty tight getting this upper radiator pipe in. And what I decided to do is hammer a little indentation in it just so that this corner, there's a little bit more clearance between the corner of the Moroso tank and the radiator pipe that Hellion provides. The other modification, I had to bring this power steering reservoir towards the front of the car more, probably by about a half an inch or an inch. I had to modify this mounting bracket a little bit. I had to cut the fan shroud so that I could move this closer. And then I just drilled another hole, so this would move towards the front of the car more. So otherwise, I can't get this pipe in here. So I think that's pretty much it. That's the only things I really had to modify. Not too bad. This is my first turbo kit that I ever installed, and it was pretty kind of challenging. It took me a while, but I took my time, and I was overall this kit is actually very nice. The other thing that I did was I decided the wastegate actually, unfortunately I don't have a picture of the wastegate. The wastegate mounts here, and there's a pipe from the wastegate and it connects back into the exhaust here. So what I decided to do was plug this off. I just put a plug in here, and the wastegate pipe I cut, and then I rotated it so it would flow towards the driver's side. I think the good thing about that, so when you drive the car, this wastegate is really loud. It sounds like a jet engine almost. So that's kind of cool. Kind of adds to the experience. Others might not like that, so you could always run it back into the exhaust. So here's a video of the dyno session. This is at Dyno Edge in Eibach. So it made 527 horsepower and 534 foot-pounds at the wheels. So and that's at only 7.5 psi. So for a 3-valve, I was super happy with that. Normally 3 valves get about 100 horsepower less, and about 420 maybe at the wheels when you have this kit at 7.5. but I'm getting extra 100, and that's primarily because I have, you know, it's a slightly stroked and bored motor. So I have a 5.0 block, and I'm running a mild stroke that puts the displacement to 5.2 liters. I also have turbo cams. I also have ported heads, so all that kind of makes things nice. So I get about 100 horsepower more, and I was super happy with that. So what I'm amazed is how fun it is to drive this car now. I did have a supercharged car, and the horsepower and torque were about the same. I think I was running 510 at the time, and that was at 12.5, 13 psi boost. So that's how much more efficient this engine is now. Surprised how different it is driving this turbo car. You know, you floor it, and you know, you hit like 3,500 RPM, and then suddenly the power just keeps building and building and building and building, and you hear that wastegate, and just the experience, I think, is just more intense than a supercharger. Supercharger, you might have some whine. My E-Force kit actually didn't have any whine. It was actually pretty quiet. So you floor it, you get this torque instantly, and then that's it. You know, there's really there's no drama, I guess. The turbo drama is not there. But you know, maybe around town, you're always going to have torque at low RPM. So in that respect, it's pretty fun too. But having both a supercharger and turbo, at this point, I would say the turbo, the experience is I would say, is just funner. I don't know, it's hard to describe. So anyway, if you have any questions or comments or questions about the installation or the kit or anything else, feel free to contact me. And I guess if this is your first time stopping by, please subscribe to my channel, and please have a nice day. We'll see you.